Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 6th of January 2022. These are the stories that we'll be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin with paying a tribute to the teenager Aitzaz Hassan, who confronted a suicide bomber a couple of years back to save the lives of his peers. This is his 6th martyrdom anniversary. The whole social media was ablaze with the paying tribute to this young boy who saved the lives of hundreds of students and sacrificed his own. And he has made a legend out of himself and leads by example for so many others to follow as to how to lead forward as far as rendering sacrifice when it comes to the security and safety of your brethren is concerned. This is our leading story. Then we will talk about Omicron and Asad Umar Sahab, who's the head of the NCOC, who has warned on Wednesday that this variant of the coronavirus was rapidly spreading in Pakistan and fear that it would spread even more rapidly in the days to come. Dr. Faisal Sultan also talks about this rapid increase in the number of cases in Omicron and what we need to do. We'll also talk about how you can take the booster dose and who is eligible to take this booster dose as well, and where in Pakistan can you take this booster dose. We'll be talking about that in our second story. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the media briefing that was given by the Director General of the ISPR, Major General Babar Iftikhar, who yesterday talked about various topics, whether it be the Army's role in 2021, whether it be the issues that confront Pakistan, such as Afghanistan, such as India, whether it be the Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan, whether it be other issues, internal politics as well. But we will concentrate on two very important topics that he discussed, and that is India and Afghanistan. This is going to be our third story. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about Balochistan Chief Minister Abdul Quddus Bizenjo, who has said that the provincial capital, that is Quetta, has decided to declare Gwadar and Kech districts calamity hit areas and has issued directives to the Chief Secretary to take steps in this regard. Of course, this is because of the heavy rains that have gripped those areas in Balochistan. As you can see, rain has more or less gripped the entire country. In Punjab, although it is good for the crops, in Islamabad it feels as if we are in the northern areas. In Karachi also we've had rain, but in Balochistan, especially in these two areas, Gwadar and Kech, people have been severely affected by these rains. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first segment, and we pay tribute, ladies and gentlemen, to this brave teenager known as Aitzaz Hassan, whose 6th death anniversary is being celebrated on social media, especially today. And a lot of words of praise are going on as far as the sacrifices that he rendered 6 years back. What happened was that after the 16th of December, you know what happened with the APS attack. A lot of people had become extremely sensitive to attacks that were coming from across the border. Now, what happened was Aitzaz Hassan, who was 15 years old at the time, was with friends outside the school when they spotted a man who was wearing a suicide vest. Despite pleas of his fellow students, he decided to confront and capture this bomber who detonated his vest. And of course, that led to the shahadat and the martyrdom of Aitzaz Hassan, who was only 15 years of age at that time. This happened in Ibrahim Zai region of Hangu. There was almost 2,000 students in attendance at the time of the attack. So this young boy gave his life, became a martyr, and saved the lives of thousands of students that were there in that educational institutions. His family insists that rather than focus on the sorrow brought about by his death, they want to focus on their pride in these actions. He was also awarded the Sitara-e-Shujaat for this act of bravery. On Twitter, if you can see, there are a lot of praises that are coming on. A lot of people are eulogizing this brave young boy, whether it be Fatima Bhutto, who says that he stopped a suicide bomber from entering the school. He was 15 when he gave his life to 2,000 students. His courage and love makes me weep. Mika Zulfikar, who's a renowned actor, says what real heroes look like. Fawad Chaudhry Sahab also praised him with Ashar, and then Shiri Mazari Sahiba said, remembering the young hero Aitzaz Hassan Bangash, who was martyred on this day in the year 2014 while preventing a suicide bomber from entering his school in Hangu. And this is a story of unparalleled courage. Also, Jabran Nasir said that his brother told him that Aitzaz Hassan's classmates used to tease him on his side, calling him Khudkush. He always replied that when a Khudkush will come, you'll run and I'll fight. And he proved his words right. This is a boy who will always be remembered for his bravery. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Whether it be Dr. Faisal Sultan, whether it be Asad Umar Saab, they have all warned that this fifth wave of COVID-19 is slowly and steadily entering Pakistan, and people need to be extremely vigilant, get their booster doses and follow the SOPs. More in the following report.
Despite robust global vaccination drive against pandemic, world is again facing surge in COVID cases, fueled by new variant Omicron, dubbed as a variant of concern by World Health Organization. According to the World Health Organization, the Omicron variant appears to have a growth advantage over the Delta variant, which was previously the fastest spreading variant of concern of the virus. Pakistan is witnessing a gradual uptick in the coronavirus caseload, illustrating clear signs of a new wave of the virus surging in the country. Raising further alarm bells, Pakistan reported 1,085 new coronavirus cases for the last 24 hours, marking it the first time in nearly 3 months that daily infections exceeded 1,000. The statistical data shared by National Command and Operations Center, country's nerve center for coordinating anti-pandemic efforts, indicates dramatic rise in positivity rate, that is 2.32%. Bolstering precautionary measures to keep Omicron from gaining momentum, Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Health Dr. Faisal Sultan directed the provinces to make necessary arrangements such as ensuring the availability of ample oxygen to deal with any such situations. Earlier, the NCOC chief Asad Umar urged masses to get vaccinated and revisit mask wearing and to follow state prescribed precautionary measures, including social distancing. An explosion of infections comes with timid signs of hope for 2022, as Pakistan has achieved the 2021 target of vaccinating 70 million people against coronavirus.
Dr. Shoaib Khan, who's a consultant in general medicine, joins us online. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, a lot of warnings are going from different quarters in Pakistan, whether it be Dr. Faisal Sultan, who's a special assistant to the Prime Minister, or whether it be Asad Umar Saab, who's heading the NCOC. What needs to be done in these days when the number of cases is alarmingly rising every 24 hours?
Assalamu alaikum to you, Omar, and your listeners. Thank you for having me on the program. Yes, Omicron is a new variant of COVID-19, and indeed it has come to Pakistan, which was inevitable, as was previously said by Asad Umar as well. I think your question that what needs to be done, I would urge the Pakistanis that we should follow what the NCOC tells us. Our record of Pakistan throughout this COVID pandemic has been excellent, to say the least. Our example was given by even WHO to other countries to follow. And I must say the NCOC throughout this COVID pandemic has done really well in planning our border restrictions, vaccination, and mini lockdowns when they are needed. And I think again I would urge my citizens to follow what the NCOC says. And currently the advice from the NCOC is to have a cautious optimism. This Omicron variant is not as severe as the Delta variant, but still we need to be careful. We need to follow the SOPs. But currently there is no need for a lockdown, as was said by Asad Umar Saab.
All right. Now, Dr. Shoaib, you said that it's not as lethal as the Delta variant. Dr. Faisal Sultan, while addressing media concerns, also said that although this might be the case, but we will have a better idea in due time. Now, when you also see the lethality with which Omicron attacks and the positivity ratio that is increasing by every day. Yesterday it was more than 1%. Today in Pakistan it's more than 2%. And the number of cases are particularly increasing in Lahore and Karachi. What do you attribute this increase in cases to?
Yes, I mean Omicron is a mutant of the Delta variant. It has acquired some new mutations which makes it far more transmissible. and the chances of the virus going from one person to the next has increased manifold, and that is the reason that this Omicron is sweeping throughout the world. And the cases throughout the Europe, in America, you see the numbers that were never seen before in any of the previous waves. And this increased transmissibility, we are seeing this in Pakistan as well. And as you rightly pointed out, that our positivity ratio is increasing, the number of cases is increasing. And Dr. Faisal Sultan was right in pointing out that yes, we need to be optimistic, but at the same time, we need to be cautious as well. There has to be a fine balance between the optimism, because we don't want the cautious optimism turning into a callous carelessness. Because before we know it, it could infect a lot of people, and if the number of people in hospital increases too much, then our capabilities of dealing with these people in the hospitals would be affected. Oxygen supply, all of those things, they were well managed before, and we want to manage them well again. And to do that, we want to make sure that we are cautious. And that was the message coming out from Dr. Faisal Sultan as well.
All right, now, Dr. Shoaib, there's another thing, and a lot of people think or feel that when it's extremely cold or humid, that the virus does not transmit as quickly as during, for example, a more warmer period in certain parts of the country. That is why in Karachi there's a more ratio of transmissibility between people. Is that true in your point of view?
I mean, there are some suggestions from some studies that in humid climates, the transmissibility decreases. However, I mean, if you look at UK, in England, it's far more humid than us, and there's always rain, and humidity is close to 100% a lot of the times. But if you see the number of cases in UK currently, it's crossed 200,000, and that's a massive number. So yes, there are some scientific, suggestions that might have be less transmissibility in this weather, but I don't think we should, ponder on that too much. The underlying message remains the same: follow the SOPs, follow the NCOC, get vaccinated.
All right, Dr. Shoaib, now let's come to following the SOPs. A lot of people are not following the SOPs in Pakistan and in other places across the world. They say the virus is over, we've dealt with it for 2 years and now we've had enough, or that the virus is not coming, despite the fact that we are seeing an increase in the number of cases. What kind of message needs to be given across to such people?
I think again, it's a balance. The problem that we and many other nations in the world is facing, is that there is a lot of mistrust in general public throughout the world. If you see, even in Western countries, on governments, their real life experience of the disease is probably not as severe, and then they feel that all these hoo-ha and all these lockdowns and all these vaccination, all this money going into it, what's the point? But if you look at the science, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the facts, the point remains that this COVID-19 remains a threat to human society, in terms of economics, in terms of health, in terms of the whole social fabric. And as a community, we have to come together. We have to follow the SOPs, and we need to follow what the NCOC says. Individually, every person in his own right might be able to look at some studies here, some studies there, but you will not be able to match the amount of the educational acumen and the brains that are sitting there in NCOC and such organization in every country that are sitting at the top, and they've got a lot more resources, a lot more information, a lot more statistics to look at, and their advice is much more scientific. So we need to give this message at all levels, from the government, from the media, print media, social media, conventional media, and then through religious, through
That is very
mosques,
important as well, because
every.
there's a lot of people who are not, there are a lot of people who are not following the SOPs in the mosques, and there are a lot of congregations that happen in the mosque, whether it be for the Friday prayers or for the other prayers whatsoever, and people do not follow the SOPs there. I rarely see myself while praying, not a lot of people put on the masks, and they do not, of course, follow the SOP of being a bit distant from each other as well. How can that be changed in the days to come? Because if Omicron comes in to the mosques and one person has it, all the others will get it.
Yes, you're right. That is an issue, and I think, in my opinion, what needs to be done is the religious leaders need to come in into that. They need to be briefed on the whole issue. They need to give a message. They need to set an example, the religious leaders, and then this needs to filter down from all the religious communities and in mosques. In Friday sermons, in all prayers, there can be notices on the mosques. There can be masks provided. There can be awareness. All of this will have more effect if you target these people through the religious leaders. I think that will probably help.
Dr. Shoaib, a lot of people also feel that the only way to combat this virus is through herd immunity. Now, do you agree or disagree? They feel that why follow the SOPs or wear masks, because in any way this virus will only pass away when everybody has gotten it.
Yes, I mean, it's important for people to know what is meant by herd immunity. Basically, herd immunity means that when in a whole population, a certain level of people get infected and they have this immunity towards any of this disease, then what happens is that virus or that disease cannot spread from one person to another because that person's already got an immunity, and then you cannot have a sweeping epidemic. That is called herd immunity. Now, problems, there are some good things with herd immunity and some not so good things. The good things with herd immunity in COVID is that we've had a lot of, this is the fifth wave in Pakistan. So there is a good chance that a vast majority of people in Pakistan have had the disease before. So there is some level of immunity towards this virus in them. And secondly, we've had a large number of vaccination and even booster doses, so that has also given a lot of immunity. So we are close or some way towards achieving that herd immunity. However, there is some issues with herd immunity in COVID as well. Firstly, herd immunity will can be escaped. For example, this is Omicron is the best example. So this virus achieved some mutations, and the spike protein on the virus, which was the recognizing protein on the virus which the immunity recognizes, changed. So the old immunity that was acquired through previous infection or through previous vaccination was unable to fully recognize it. So there was some escape. So some of the people got the disease even though they've had previous disease and even though they've had previous vaccination. And as the scientists have said, that we expect further mutations over and over again. So yes, there will be some level of herd immunity, but every time there is a mutation, there will be some escape. And second thing is that herd immunity wanes. So if I get a vaccination, if I get a vaccine or I get this disease, after 6 months to 12 months, the number of antibodies will start to decrease in my blood and my immunity will decrease. So there will be an increased risk of getting the disease again. So yes, herd immunity is help, but it is not the final answer.
All right. Finally, Dr. Saab, when it comes to vaccination, a lot of people don't want to have the booster dose, and then there, with the booster dose, there's a mix and match probability as well that a lot of doctors say is better for you if you get a booster dose of another vaccine than what you had in the first two doses. Do you agree? And if so, which is the best vaccine that one should get as a booster dose?
So the vaccination, I would say to the people, is that any vaccination that's offered in Pakistan or in any country, I would say, it has been approved by the WHO. Specifically in Pakistan, every vaccine that's taken by our NCOC has been approved by WHO. It meets the required standards. It meets the safety standards. So go and get it. And your point is exactly right. There is nothing wrong in getting two different kinds of vaccines. If you had previously Pfizer vaccine, you can have Moderna. Or if you had Parkvac, you can have Pfizer as a booster. So all of these vaccines will have an effect. And yes, there are some scientists and some circles that believe that having two different kind of vaccines will give you two different types of antibodies, slightly different types of antibodies, and that gives you a better chance of catching that virus when it comes back, because you are targeting two different proteins or slightly different proteins in different ways. And if that virus has changed one of the proteins slightly, there is a chance that the antibodies that you got from the other vaccine will catch that. So again, the message is simple: whatever vaccine is available in your area, in your center, go and get it when you are eligible for it. and it will
All right.
benefit you, inshallah.
All right. Now, finally, Dr. Saab, my last question to you is that, we don't see this pandemic moving away or leaving us anytime soon. A lot of specialists talk about also a decade of COVID-19. More or less a generation or two will have to grow up with this pandemic. What needs to be done then? Should we take a booster dose every 6 months? Is this going to be the new norm of following the SOPs and getting our booster shots and being careful and vigilant?
Very good question, Omar. This is a really good question, and this is the hot debate today in the scientific community, even in the political community. That how long are we going to stop living our lives the way we want to live it for COVID-19? And with time, now we've been living with this virus for at least more than 2 years. Now we've seen how this virus changed and became more transmissible and less serious in terms of Omicron, and maybe that's the way it's going to go forward in future. Maybe it's going to become just like another respiratory virus like flu or a common cold, which will affect people once or twice, once a year, every 2 years, and will not be very serious, and we will have to live with it. And this is something that the scientific community needs to look into. We need to have more studies. We need to have continued vigilance of and surveillance of the different variants that come, how transmissible they are, how serious they are. And already, if you look at UK, I was looking at the news yesterday, and they've already relaxed their restrictions on travel. For example, they don't require fully
PCR
vaccinated
tests.
people to have a PCR test before traveling now. They don't require people to have a PCR test when they arrive in UK, because they feel that this is such so much of this virus is circulating in the community. There's no point putting on these restrictions. So I think in future, with time, probably these restrictions will decrease, and we will learn to live with this virus.
All right. We learn, we are, and we are every day or every week. There's something new as far as information about this pandemic is concerned. And of course, live. This is also something that we'll have to do for ourselves, for our loved ones, being very careful of not to transmit this virus amongst the surroundings. Thank you very much, Dr. Sardar Shoaib Khan, a consultant, general medicine, to have joined us and to have talked to us about these latest information that has emanated as far as COVID-19 is concerned, especially when it concerns Pakistan. Thank you very much. As far as, ladies and gentlemen, before we leave, just to give you a little idea, the centers where you can get your booster doses or your vaccines, if you haven't, are in all the different provinces of Pakistan, including Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, Balochistan, Islamabad, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Punjab, Sindh. In Sindh, there are many centers. So are in Punjab Primary and Secondary Healthcare Department. Spokesperson has said that all the DHQs and Tehsil headquarters hospitals are now equipped with such centers. In Islamabad, booster shots are available at all the vaccination centers and at all the mass centers as well when it comes to the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. In Balochistan, there are booster shots that have started to be administered as well, and in Azad, Jammu and Kashmir also, all the booster doses can also be given at all the important centers also in Sindh, as we've just told you. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the media brief that was given by the Director General of the ISPR, Major General Babar Iftikhar, yesterday, in which he talked about many important issues, including Afghanistan, India, the negotiations with the TTP, and internal politics, as well as the role of the army. But we are going to relegate ourselves to what he said about Afghanistan and India. More in the following report.
Director General Inter-Services Public Relations Major General Babar Iftikhar held an important press conference to address strategic matters pertaining to Pakistan's eastern border, western border and significant developments in security domain of the country. Underlying Pakistan's enduring commitment to Kashmir cause, Major General Babar Iftikhar began the press conference by shedding light on horrendous atrocities perpetrated by Indian forces in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Debunking Indian propaganda drive and exposing evil designs of Hindu nationalist Indian government, DG ISPR denounced Indian narrative warfare as desperate attempt to divert attention of international community from its war crimes in occupied valley and defense procurement aimed at regional hegemony.
7 दहाइयों में हिंदुस्तान की कश्मीरियों के खिलाफ फौजी, सियासी, मुआशी, समाजी और सकाफती जंग जारी है. On 5th of January 1949, the people of Kashmir were promised the right to self-determination by the United Nations. That promise remains unfulfilled.
While discussing Pakistan's western border, Major General Babar Iftikhar categorically declared that fencing along the Pakistan-Afghan border would be completed as planned, citing the heroic sacrifices of Pakistan Army soldiers involved in the crucial initiative.
पाक अफगान बैनुल अक़वामी सरहद पर लगाई गई ये फेंस, ये दोनों अतराफ बसने वाले लोगों को सिक्योरिटी, आमदोरफ्त और तिजारत, इसको रेगुलेट करने के लिए इस वक्त की अशद ज़रूरत है। इसका मकसद लोगों को तकसीम करना नहीं, बल्कि उन्हें महफूज बनाना है। इस बाढ़ के लगाने में हमारे शुहदा का खून शामिल है। यमन की बाढ़ है, ये मुकम्मल होगी और इंशाल्लाह कायम रहेगी।
DG ISPR's policy statement came in the wake of recent incidents on the Afghan-Pak border over fencing, indicating dire need of political harmony and commonality of wavelength between Kabul and Islamabad to forge joint understanding on strategic matters. Pakistan is already exercising maximum restraint in response to incidents of disruption along Pak-Afghan border, and DGISPR made it vividly clear that this localized issue must not be blown out of proportion, since Pakistan is maintaining cordial relations with interim Taliban government, much to the chagrin of regional spoilers.
Now, of course, while addressing the media, the Director General ISPR talked about Afghanistan, he talked about the fencing, as we've just told you in the report. He talked about India and all the unfulfilled promises. He talked about the propaganda against institutions that has failed. He talked about internal politics. He talked about the review of the armed forces performance in 2021. And he talked about the national security policy that also has been approved of late. Now, when it comes to India, of course, this is what has been saying of all the unfulfilled promises of the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But before we come to India, let's talk about Afghanistan, let's talk about the fencing and other issues that were highlighted by the Director General ISPR. We've been joined by Hassan Khan Sahab, who's a foreign affairs expert. Hassan, thank you very much to have joined us. Hassan, first briefing of 2022 by the DG ISPR. And one of the major issues and topics that he has highlighted was Afghanistan. And one of the major things in Afghanistan was the fencing issue. Do you feel that the message has gotten across?
Thank you very much. But I think that the DG ISPR has categorically stated Pakistan's policy. Pakistan feels, and this is a Pakistan policy, that there is no line between Afghanistan and Pakistan. There is an international border. For Pakistan, this border is a settled issue. There is no controversy over it. And the DG ISPR, as you said, rightly said in his first briefing of the new year, he categorically stated that Pakistan will continue fencing the border who may object to it. So, and I personally believe that the DG was right, and already Pakistan has done over 90% of the fencing along Afghan border. And there are small areas where fence has yet to be erected. So I don't, the reports, especially on the social media, which are being observed for the last month or more, I think these are really, for me, it's a very small reports, and we can call it arrogant. These are not that major issues between the two countries, which can, I think, derail the growing relation between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And you know, the people of Pakistan and the people of Afghanistan, they have very cordial relations. There is a relation of respect and mutual understanding between the two. Pakistan has served, and I think there is an understanding and there is an acknowledgement on part of Afghan that the people of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan has served them very sincerely for last more than 4 decades, I think. So I think these are small irritants, and maybe a number of we can call players may be involved here. You know, the TTP, definitely there are links between elements of the TTA, Afghan Taliban, and the TTP. And maybe there are other elements like the smugglers, etc., who may be blowing these issues up. So there can be a number of things. So I'm sure that as stated by the DG ISPR, Pakistan's policy vis-a-vis the Durand border, vis-a-vis the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, it's quite clear.
All right. Now, the DGISPR also said, and I quote, that the security situation along the western border has been challenging in the year 2021. He also said that the management of the western border had some dynamics that were being addressed at the relevant level. Do you feel this addressing of these issues is going to be coming to a logical end at a very quickly, or do you feel it's going to take some time?
I think everybody know that for the last several decades, there were issues along this border. Afghanistan was very unstable. There were internal wars and there were external aggression also. So definitely, this 2,600-kilometer border it remained volatile, and I think it will still take some time. You know that Afghan style, though the Taliban regime still denying it, but the Afghan style is being used by the Tehrik-e-Taliban terrorists. They are attacking the border areas. They are trying to kill. They are targeting the security forces. They are targeting the government functionaries, etc. So definitely, and they may have sleeping cells and they may have sympathizers on this side of the border. So I'm sure that it's not that you just it's not like a water tap that you turn it and everything is stopped. So definitely it's a human border. There are human activities on both sides of it, and this border sustained these negative activities for more than as I said, for a number of decades. So definitely the DG is right. For the last I think especially several months, the cross-border activities or the attacks on the Pakistani installation and the security forces increased both in the province of Khyber
That is so
Pakhtunkhwa and
true.
Balochistan.
Hassan, I'd request you to kindly stay online and stay with us. We are going to also talk about the Indian aspect of this media talk of the DGISPR. And for that, we've been joined by Brigadier Retired Saad Mohammed, who's a senior analyst. Brigadier Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. The DGISPR began his address to the media by talking about India, and we're talking about Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And he talked about the Indian forces' atrocities in the occupied region, as well as the propaganda campaigns in their media. Would you like to elaborate?
You know, India, it's very unfortunate that the world has closed its eyes and ears to the gross violation of human rights and the rights of women and the rights of children in the occupied Kashmir. It is not a new phenomena. The pitch may go up, the pitch may come down, but the atrocities remain right from October of 1947, that the people of Kashmir are living in a prison. The life is so tough that it is now even difficult to breathe, if I can use a proverb. It's so suffocating there. People are arbitrarily arrested. They are locked up behind bars. The women are, molested. Children are not even the children are not spared. Schoolgirls, 9th, 10th class schoolgirls are beaten up by brute soldiers. This brutality has to stop. The world has to take cognizance of this gross violation of human rights and human dignity. Pakistan, on its part, has done all it can through the diplomatic and moral support that it has provided to the Kashmiris. But I'm afraid the only answer now the Indians will understand will be the response which will come in the form of armed rebellion by the Kashmiris, because you cannot suppress people for such a long time and commit such gross injustices and then expect that those people will not head back.
All right. Now, Brigadier Saab, you know, the DGISPR also said the United Nations had promised Kashmiris the right to self-determination, something that they still have to achieve, something that still needs to be given to them. On the same end, on the one hand, they are putting these Kashmiris under these brutalities. On the other hand, they are also putting allegations on Pakistan's against all the infiltrations, so-called infiltrations, false propaganda along the line of control. And the DGISPR ISPR cited one example of the Neelam Valley in Kirin sector, in which they killed a Kashmiri and then blamed Pakistan on that. When will this blame game end, or will it ever end?
No, I don't think so. Even if there is a firecracker going up somewhere in India, uh, even in the most remotest part of India, the blame comes on Pakistan without even investigation, without even finding out the reason, or maybe it was some cylinder blast or something. But the immediate reaction is to blame Pakistan. Now, Kashmir, since they cannot control, and it cannot be controlled because we can't suppress the will of the people for such a long time. And the overwhelming majority of Kashmiris don't want to live with India. They have expressed this so many times. So what does the Indian government do to tell the world? They will blame Pakistan for it. Pakistan, if you look at the Kashmiri border, there are troops sitting eyeball to eyeball. They have fenced the border.
True.
Or the line of control, sorry. They have fenced the line of control. They have put on electronic devices which can detect any movement across the LOC at any time of the day or night. Now, blaming Pakistan is now preposterous because had Pakistan done it, it would have been very difficult for the Indians to control Kashmir. Let me tell you, it would have been absolutely burning had Pakistan allowed that. But Pakistan has shown restraint, and it's a good policy to show restraint. But till how long? I'm asking.
Exactly. I mean, that is a huge question mark.
Something will happen.
That is a huge question mark. Also, one final question from me, Brigadier Saab, is that the DGISP has also accused India of endangering regional security through its defense procurement, saying that it would trigger an arms race in the region and would have a very negative impact on peace. Will India understand peace ever, or will it be it needed to be told this in another manner whatsoever, maybe by external pressure from the Western forces?
I think till how long can the Kashmiris hold back? I really don't know. They have shown a lot of patience thus far, and Pakistan has also shown restraint. But I think a time has come now that something has to happen. These brutalities, just break your heart, and you cannot continue with these brutalities keep them open-ended. So I think the only language that the Indians understand is the language of the bullet or the gun. And at some point, the Kashmiris will pick up weapons and, fight their way to freedom. That would be the only way left for them because they have tried everything. The Kashmiris have tried everything. And India has stonewalled every attempt of the Kashmiris to bring a peaceful solution. Pakistan has also tried so many times to bring a peaceful solution to the issues that confront Pakistan.
But India never understands. I don't know when, Brigadier Saab, India will ever understand, or will it? I mean, until and unless there's a huge external pressure from some Western countries that it is allied with. Thank you very much, Brigadier Saad Mohammed Saab, to have joined us and to have talked to us about this very important issue, and that is Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and the Indian tactics to destabilize Pakistan. Coming back to you, Hassan Khan Saab, and talking about Afghanistan. When we talk about fencing in Afghanistan, Hassan Saab, when we talk of a Pak-Afghan relations as well, the DGISPR also said that Pakistan was cognizant of the situation after the US withdrawal from the country, and that this withdrawal has had serious consequences on regional security. What is your take on that?
I think definitely the DGISPR, definitely our security establishment, they are keeping an eye on Afghanistan since August 15 this year, when the US and the international forces left Afghanistan without any timetable, without any order, I think in a very disorderly manner. And no preparation was made either by Pakistan or either by other regional countries. And internally, the Afghanistan total security operators collapsed within no time, within a day. We were hearing these good news that Afghan National Security Force and police, it is more than 300,000, 350,000. But the day when Taliban entered the major cities, and especially Kabul, so there was not a single Afghan security force or security official, our police force, even the government offices were vacated. So I think that created a serious, deep vacuum in the security side within Afghanistan. And Pakistan's unfortunately has already taken a major brunt of Afghanistan unstable situation. So
True.
definitely at the moment, um, no doubt, Afghanistan is being controlled by Taliban, but there is no proper security machine. They don't have the properly trained and properly equipped security force. Even the police are not in a proper in a proper shape. So definitely, it is a matter of concern for regional countries and specifically for Pakistan. So what the DGISPR has said, and I think we have to keep this statement in consonance with the statement that the western border is still there are still irritant along the western border. So I think it's a matter of concern not only for Pakistan but even for other regional countries, other neighbors. That the current situation in Afghanistan is very fluid. Taliban may seems to be in control of the situation. However, they don't have a proper structure, security structure. They don't have a proper police command and control system. Even the military is absent. So at the moment when you are talking about Afghanistan, so I think nobody is taking rest to land at to go and visit Kabul. So Afghanistan currently, it seems to be the what you call it, the calm or the peace which is being observed post Taliban, after the Taliban taking over. I think it may be timely. A proper system is not erected. The proper institutions are not built. Pakistan has already offered its services, especially for building their force. Even Pakistan, this offer was also made to Dr. Ashraf Ghani, which unfortunately they refused it. And even the former structures which was built during President Karzai and President Ghani regime, General Kiani's famous statement to the American in 2004, I think quite earlier, that the way Afghan forces are being built, the Afghan security structure is being erected. It will be nowhere once there is an external pressure on it, and that proved right. So I think at the moment, Pakistan, like other regional countries, neighboring countries, have a serious concerns over the situation in Afghanistan. So
Now, when you
you
when
have
you talk of the serious concerns as far as Afghanistan is concerned, let's not forget the economic and humanitarian crisis that Afghanistan is currently engulfed in as well. And this is what the DG ISPR has also said, that this situation may result in a humanitarian debacle in the country. What, in your point of view, needs to be done?
I think at the moment, unfortunately, the position taken by Taliban, there seems to be very much they are sticking to their guns, and this sense of victory against the international forces, especially the American, it has given them a very strange sort of confidence that they say we will convince the world what we want. At the moment, I think the world is waiting, including Pakistan, for Taliban to at least make their stance a bit softened, particularly over the issue of women, the women educations and women working. Simultaneously, Taliban has promised in Doha Agreement that they will not allow the Afghan soils to be used by anybody against any country. So I think Pakistan still internally through diplomatic channels, Pakistan is communicating the way the TTP terrorists are using the Afghan soil against Pakistan. Even the other regional countries too have concern. There are human rights issues in Afghanistan, and I think the world is waiting. The world is trying to pressurize
Of course.
Taliban to at least soften their position vis-a-vis their own people. And I think the major burden lies on Taliban because now they are no more a resisting force. They are there to manage the government. They are there to manage the whole country. So this is a serious issue there. Unless and until otherwise, I think the current situation in Afghanistan, it can't be sustained.
Of course, the situation in Afghanistan cannot be sustained until and unless where there's proper effort that comes from the important countries from the West as far as the humanitarian and economic crisis is concerned, and as far as the current Afghan government is also concerned, as far as the pledges that it had made in the previous agreements in Doha, and also what the West is asking from Afghanistan. Let's end today's show, ladies and gentlemen, with the news from Balochistan. We've had rainfall in most parts of the country, And in Balochistan, this heavy rainfall has caused devastation in different areas of Balochistan that include Gwadar, Chaman, Ormara, Pasni and Kech. Now, this continued downpour and also snowfall has caused the Chief Minister of Balochistan, Mr. Bizenjo, to declare Gwadar and Kech districts as calamity hit areas, and he has issued directives for the Chief Secretary to take relevant steps in this regard. He also said that huge losses had occurred in Gwadar and Kech districts due to the heavy rains which had lashed the Makran coast the other day. The necessary is being done by the current government, and we really hope that the dividends show very quickly. We know that these rains are creating havoc in Balochistan, and the government will do its level best in order to help those who have been affected by it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's news. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories and segments that concern you, us and Pakistan. In the meantime, get yourselves vaccinated, your booster shot or your vaccine doses, and follow the SOP. Stay very vigilant. Allah Hafiz.